Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Taekook, a house that was never built but always exists. There is a story that is not reported by newspapers, not debated in forums, not announced on live broadcasts. That story only lives between two heartbeats that never really stop. His name is Taekook. Or more precisely, Kim Taehyung and Jungkook. They did not try to become legends. They simply became each other. And in becoming that, they accidentally transformed into living poetry that was read by millions of eyes without ever being written. From a cramped trainee room with the lights off at 2 in the morning, to a stadium stage that illuminated thousands of crying and singing faces, their relationship grew not because they tried, but because they found each other. In a world that demanded they be perfect, they allowed each other to be real. Jungkook, the golden magne, looks from the outside like a dream neatly packaged by the world. But not many people know that his heart is fragile, like thin glass that can only be touched by someone who truly understands how to embrace wounds without touching them. Then came Taehyung. Not as a savior, but as someone who silently combs through the storm inside Jungkook's head. Who doesn't ask why he's crying, but chooses to sit next to him in silence. Who doesn't provide solutions, but is enough to be a place to come home to without question. I don't know if I would have survived if she wasn't there, Jungkook whispers as they sit by the lake in a clip from In the SOOP. The water is calm and the words are slow, but their eyes say, "You're my home, even when I'm lost in myself." There are thousands of clips and video clips that prove their closeness. But true love is never seen in big scenes. It lives in small moments, when Taehyung glances at Jungkook just to make sure he's okay. When Jungkook shifts his body slowly to stand closer to Taehyung in an interview that makes him nervous. In the small laughs that only they understand, and in the pauses when they stare at each other longer than they should. "She knows the sides that I hide from everyone, even from myself," Taehyung says in one documentary. And when the camera turns to Jungkook, there's no big smile. Just a twinkle in the eye, a silent confession that was louder than any statement. They didn't name their relationship. They never said we're a couple. But what's a label when two souls have been patiently sewing each other's wounds day after day? At the concert in Paris, Taehyung looked so tired. Armies might not have noticed, but Jungkook's eyes never left his face. He approached him slowly, touched his shoulder, and in a barely audible second, he said silently, "You're not alone." They joked around like kids, bickered like old lovers, and reconciled like two artists who know their work is only complete when they work together. Jimin once said, "They're like magnets. If one moves away, the other will pull back." It sounded like a joke, but anyone who saw them knew it was the truth. In their casual V-Live broadcast, Jungkook had said, "My life would be so different if you weren't in this group." It sounded lighthearted, but to those who were sensitive, it was the deepest confession. That the world can go on without anyone, but it's incomplete without that one person who makes everything feel meaningful. Taehyung is not just a friend. Not just a best friend. Not just a fellow group member. He is the wind that knows when to come without making a sound, and when to be silent without disappearing. Jungkook? He is not just the magne. He is the home for Taehyung's anxiety, a protector from a world that is sometimes too noisy. And in every interview, in every song they write together, there is always a kind of invisible thread that binds them. Not the red thread of legend, but a thread of trust that is woven not in a day, but in thousands of days filled with practice, tears, and silent hugs. Taekook is not a public couple. They are not fan service. They are two boys who grew up together and never really let go of each other's hands, even when the cameras are off, even when the stage is over. Army calls them Taekook as a form of love that cannot be expressed with ordinary words. The name is a prayer, is a hope, is a respect for two humans who have taught us that love does not always have to be romantic. Sometimes love is someone who sits next to you for hours without saying anything. But you know you're never alone. Love doesn't always have to be romantic, Taehyung says. Sometimes love is someone who stays with you even when you don't recognize yourself. Hashtag. And Jungkook, usually so reserved, added quietly, "If I had to pick one person who understands me the most, he's the one." They didn't build a house out of bricks. They built it out of presence. Out of waiting for each other without being asked. Out of not giving up even when the world wanted them to change. Out of being a shelter even when they were tired. Their relationship didn't seek validation out of headlines, because in a world that was fast and rough, they had found each other. And that was more than enough. If love is a place, then Taekook is home. Not because it's comfortable, but because they choose to come back. Again and again. Without a reason. But a true home isn't always walls and a roof. Sometimes it's someone who knows where the deepest wounds are without having to unwrap the bandages. Sometimes it's just a voice that comes through a call at 2 in the morning, when your chest feels tight but you don't know why. And in Taehyung and Jungkook's lives, that home is each other. There are days when they're too tired to talk. The world has taken too much. But in silence, they remain present. Sitting on the same couch, sipping the same coffee, even playing guitar notes that echo each other, even without words. Their silence is not distance, but language, one that not everyone can understand, but can always be felt. At a concert in Las Vegas, ARMY watched as the stage lights suddenly went out. For a moment, everything was silent. But behind the darkness, the camera caught Jungkook's hand touching Taehyung's back. Not to adjust the formation, but to reassure, I'm here. Don't be afraid. That's how they are, two stars who don't compete with each other, but light each other up. It doesn't mean that everything is always easy. There were times when they didn't speak for days. Not because they hated each other, but because each was healing. But like the ocean and the beach, they always came back. Always. Sometimes I'm too hard on myself, Jungkook once said, his voice soft. But when I look at her, I feel enough. Like, I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be me. And Taehyung, who was sitting next to him at the time, didn't respond. He just held his hand for a moment. Strong but gentle. As if to say, you're enough. Even in your darkest days. There are thousands of photos, millions of speculations, but only they know the real story. They don't need to say, what are we? Because they are the answer to a question that doesn't need to be asked. They are the morning after a long night. A hug in the backstage hallway. A look in the eyes that holds the world. Why do you always know when I'm sad? Taehyung asked one night behind the camera. Jungkook just shrugged and smiled thinly. Because I've been sad too without knowing how to say it. And you're the first to understand. Love, in its purest form, isn't about who's the most romantic. It's about who stays, even when everything is messed up. And Taekook? They are that form of love, quiet, not noisy, but present with all their soul. ARMY, who watched them from afar, knew that this wasn't about fan service. This was about two humans growing to know each other in a world that was never really friendly. They are a reminder that not all relationships need recognition to be real. That some bonds simply need to be understood. When Jungkook writes a song about home, we know who he's imagining. And when Taehyung draws the sky, we know who he's longing for. Because in each of their works, there's a trace that only two pairs of eyes can recognize, theirs. They may never stand at the altar. But every stage they step on together is a promise, I'll walk with you whenever you need me. And when the world asks, who are they to each other? ARMY just smiles. Because we know, they're a house that was never built. But always there. Always coming home. To each other.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.